to me, it's bigger than just saving $500 or $1,000 or a couple grand a month. I know them and I trust them and they've done good business. So I don't care about what the cost is. If they're ultimately doing what they said they were going to do, you now have my loyalty, right?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to an episode of the True Life Network podcast. Today we have not one, but two very special guests joining us to give us insights on what it takes to be a top successful entrepreneur. Today we have Trevor Cowley and Kale Goodman, who are best friends and co-workers of 3 different companies and investors in 10 other businesses. Trevor and Kale are now doing over $10 million in revenue a year and are growing at a rapid rate. Easier accounting is their primary focus, and they believe that the company will force the accounting world to dramatically step up their game in the next 5 to 10 years. They saw a gap in the industry and how accountants typically communicate with business owners, and they decided to create an accounting firm that serves the modern day business owner. So guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you for joining us. We got Trevor and Kale here today with us. I'd like you guys to take the floor and give us a little bit of insight on what you guys are trying to do in the accounting world right now.
Yeah, man, we can start with that for sure. We're trying to do a lot of things, but the biggest gap that we saw originally was the communication. Like, accountants just don't think like business owners, right? They go to college, they learn, they want to get out, they want to get a job at the Big Four, or they do get a job at a firm. And it was just rare that you came across an accountant that, one, you wanted to talk to, and two, actually had your back, that would work for you, right? We kind of have a saying here: if you don't work for the client, you're working for the IRS, right? Like, so really, we just wanted to solve that problem. We wanted to help people not only take advantage of everything they're legally eligible to take advantage of, but we want to be people that they want to pick up the phone for. We want to be people that that want to communicate with us. We want to be people that will really dig in deep and go above and beyond for them. And that's really what it comes down to. Entrepreneurs suck at accounting. And the bottom line is they need someone to help hold them accountable to get the information that they need to them so that someone can truly take it off their plates, like an accounting firm. But most accounting firms don't have the systems and processes built in order to do that. And so that's really what we've done. And we're still doing it. We're continuing how can we fine tune it to even be better than not only our competition, but just internally? Like, how can we really help go to the next level to help these business owners really stay dialed all year long, so they have the information to make decisions, they have the information to wrap things up at the end of the year without it being this big old headache, right? And that's really how we got our name. It's like, man, if you just check in and work with your accountant a few minutes every month, 5, 10, 15 minutes every month, and the end of the year comes, year ends are done on time, tax time comes, it's time to file those taxes. If it's not stressful, it's easier, right? And so that's really kind of how we got our name, man. It's Easier Accounting. Is we really truly want to make it easier on the entrepreneur. And we know that business owners, especially the startups, to the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they don't have the money to go out and hire KPMG for $45,000 a year or $600,000 a year or whatever it is that they need, right? And so we created our packages to serve the small business owner, the medium business owner, to really get them that same service that the wealthy do get.
100%. That's awesome. So real quick, something interesting that you said right there, that a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how to deal with their finances, right? The accounting aspect. Why do you think that is?
Because it's funner to actually make money. Yeah. They're visionaries. They're like, man, I want to just build this and that, and I want to get rich. And they don't want to develop the habits on the financial side because it's monotonous. It's boring. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. But to us, it is, because one, we've been through it. We're entrepreneurs, man. We're not even CPAs, but we've understood the value of actually having the right people on our team to help us understand those things and take it off our plate. And so that's exactly what we're doing for our customers.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's the thing. So I actually at fault for this. I actually love to spend money, right? I mean, you make it, you want to spend it the way that you want, right? And I'm yeah. I mean, you guys understand the game. So the thing is, I always said that people don't have a spending problem; they have an income problem, right? Now, do you guys actually vouch for that as well?
I'm more of a hybrid. I like high income, and I like very minimal going out. Like I really don't spend much money personally. The money that I spend is on investments. That's the way I choose to live. There's two types of entrepreneurs. There's the spenders, and then there's the savers. And you really have to break that down for people when they're like, hey, I want, more tax strategies, more strategies. Yes, there's some stuff that you can do outside of just deducting an expense to save money. But people need to understand, if you're a saver, usually you're deducting money going out of the account. And if you're a saver, there's not a whole lot of money going out of the account. That's why it's important to get some external tax strategies where you could place money and still lower your tax bracket. But for me, like just last week, we wired off $500,000 for an investment on two different business ventures, $250,000 each. And so really that's where I get my reward. I reward myself for the hard work that I've put in over the last decade by having money to invest into things that could make me money minus my time, to where my money's actually now serving me, right? There's levels to entrepreneurship where you originally have to trade time for money, then you invest into a business, then you've got your time and money invested into the business. Then you get to the point where you have money that you're investing into other people's businesses that now is just making you money. And really that's where we're at this point in business. We have our companies, they're cash flowing well, and we really just want to continue to invest into our future. But the cool thing about it being a business owner, if you are a spender, you can find unique ways to throw those in as some sort of business deduction if you're smart about it, and you consult with an accountant and say, how do I utilize this transaction and run it through my business as a business deduction?
100%. And I'm right there with you. And I was actually listening to the podcast that you guys did with David Meltzer. And I know that you actually wait till the end of the year to actually go ahead and start your investments, right? So I'm actually right there with you though. Spending money on investments, not going out, not things like that. Trust me, I don't go out. I don't do weekends really that much right now. It's kind of, all right, let me get the office together. Let me get the team up and running. That's my primary focus. Plus, I don't even watch TV. That something like that is not really my cup of tea. I'd rather sit there, read a book, gain knowledge, and then go implement, right? But in regards to the investment side, something that I do is, when I need to purchase something for the business, I don't really go shop around, right? I always had the mentality that, especially since we're all in sales, right? That the way I purchase something is the way that I can get my prospect to purchase something, right? So if I'm shopping it around, when my prospect tells me, hey, you know what, I'm looking at these places too, and they got better quotes, I understand them if I'm doing it myself, right? So I usually make those decisions quickly to invest that kind of money and just go do it, whether it's $4,000 more, $5,000 more. I feel that that's where the income problem versus expense problem comes into play, because to me, I'd rather just go ahead and do the investment quickly rather than shopping around and utilizing that time where it could be spent getting more money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, we get people hit us up all the time for different services and say, oh, we already have that. And then their rebuttal is, well, we can do it for cheaper. For me, I look at it as in a relationship. I said, look, we've done business with these people for the last 6 months or 12 months. To me, it's bigger than just saving $500 or $1,000 or a couple grand a month. I know them and I trust them, and they've done good business. So I don't care about what the cost is. If they're ultimately doing what they said they were going to do, you now have my loyalty, right? So I'm not going to sit here and pinch pennies to try to find another option that can do what you do, because I might jump around and end up, with nothing at the end of the day and run through a bunch of crappy companies, spend more money in the long run rather than finding what works and just spend the money on it.
It's also sometimes kind of relates back to a scarcity mindset, right? Like at the end of the day, if you're spending that much time to find the cheapest option that is going to come back and bite you in the long run, but you can't break out of that, it's like, man, you're going to live in that scarcity mindset, and that's just not good for growth. Like when we need something, we go get it, and we want quality because we want it to hold up. We want it to stand up. And so just like you're looking at it like, okay, what gets these people to buy? It's like, you also got to look at, what is your ideal customer? Like, you would probably rather sell something to us, and we'd rather probably sell something to you because you are that type of person. I need it. It's quality. It works. It's going to get me X amount of return. It's not going to break down on me later on. It's like, you know what I mean? So you got to look at your ideal audience, your target, like, who am I marketing to? Because so if you are getting a lot of people that are like that, and they are scarcity mindset, but you're selling a high-end product, you might need to switch up your marketing process a little bit, you know?
100%. I mean, the whole scarcity mindset, I feel like people don't invest in themselves just because, at the end of the day, they don't believe that they can go get it back, right? And at the end of the day, you want your service to be an investment, not an expense. Right? That's where the quality comes into play, right? So that's where the company comes into play, their ethics, their morals, and you have to be able to identify who are those companies, right? As a prospect.
Sometimes it's just a maturity thing too, man. Like, we've gone through these phases, and I just remember being super impulsive, like, I wanted to reward myself. I grew up poor. I finally started making some good money, like 6 figures as a sales guy. And I wanted the nice things. And you got like more ego back then. And as you kind of evolve as an entrepreneur, you get to points like Trevor and I are right now, where we're geeking out on like, ooh, we get to buy this investment. We're not looking at, buying the coolest Lamborghini. We're looking at, oh man, we can buy this investment. What's that going to do for us and our family? And it's kind of a maturity thing. But when you're on that come up, the sooner that you can squash the impulsiveness, which always turns into ignorance, the quicker you're going to level up, right? Because that's really what comes down to. If you're being impulsive, that means you're making decisions quickly based on what you want right now, based on what your perception of the outside world is. And if you're doing that, then you're probably making those decisions very quickly in an ignorant mindset as well. And if you're being ignorant, you're not doing your due diligence, you're not looking into things, you're just making brash decisions because you want it and it's for the wrong reason, then you're just an immature entrepreneur. And sometimes you just got to go through that to learn, like we talked off camera. But at the end of the day, man, it is part of a little bit of a maturity thing. So if young guys or gals that are entrepreneurial listen to something like this, I mean, that's what I would challenge people on, is like, man, am I impulsive? Am I really mature as a business owner? Like, what am I looking at that's pushing right now? Is it a Lamborghini, or is it an investor mindset? And so, I mean, I think that can be super valuable, because I do remember going back. If I go back long enough, man, I can remember being super impulsive, and I was making a lot of really ignorant decisions. And that's what cost me for a long time until I got that in check.
100%. And it's actually funny. You brought something to my attention. When I was actually speaking with Bradley, I was on his podcast, Dropping Bombs. And we were talking about some entrepreneurs nowadays, what they're doing is buying a Ferrari and claiming it's an investment, right? Just for the marketing aspect. What's your guys' take on that?
Probably just depends on what industry you're in. Right? Like, for accounting, I don't think that we need a Ferrari to, say, hey, come work with us. But if I was selling some sort of business opportunity, that says, hey, you can make X amount of money by working with me, then I would think that, it would probably pay off in terms of the pictures and the videos and things like that you can make, that will grab the average person's attention. Again, the average person, which is a large majority of people, right? They have the shiny object syndrome, where somebody has something that they think is cool, all eyes are going to be on it, right? But for us, I in a service-based industry, like doing bookkeeping, tax prep, tax planning, not necessarily. Our credit repair company, maybe so. Hey, do you want to be able to, have good enough credit to buy this? Then yeah. But right now our lead cost is so low that we don't necessarily need to use some of those marketing tactics. But we've had people on our podcast that said, yeah, I bought a Lamborghini for marketing. If you idiots just stopped clicking on it, I'd stop using it. So basically that's what he said, right? He's like, it works. Until the day that it doesn't work, then I'll have it in my ads. And so I think in some industries, yeah, it can serve you. Because the average person it'll capture their attention, no doubt. And then you have a higher percentage of converting that individual to whatever opportunity you're trying to present. But so I think it just depends.
I think, yeah, I agree with it. And I disagree with it based on how you really are buying it. If you're buying it and then you're just using that excuse to justify it, but you don't really have a strategic plan to implement it that is going to work or increase conversions or increase net worth, then you're just kind of full of shit, And so really it comes down to that, right? If you're being strategic about it and you're actually going to fully leverage it, like one of our mentors, Ryan Stewman, he does that very well. and he also purchases his cars very well too. He purchases them. He actually uses them for the right amount of time. He resells them. He ups them. He doesn't, he kind of like plays the game a little bit on purchasing too, where they're not costing him a lot of money, right? Like he might own a car for a year, but it's a car he knows is a hot item that's going to appreciate in the marketplace. So when he actually dumps that car next year, well, it maybe costs him a few $1,000 really, but he leveraged it in his marketing to where he made a lot more than that on it, right? And so you just got to look at all sides of it, man. Are you being really strategic about it, or are you just saying that to justify your want, your desire?
Before doing it, go rent one and take a couple pictures and just see if you get the clicks that you want, and if you do and you can justify it after a month, then go do your thing. Enjoy your life if that's how you want to do it.
Percent. No, I completely agree with you guys too, because I feel like the biggest problem with these entrepreneurs that are trying to get the attention through all the flashy objects, etc. What happens is they put this persona out, right, that they're this person, when in reality they put all the money that they had in there, right?
Oh yeah.
And then what happens? They have to start getting funding and just different ways of obtaining money to keep that image up, right? So I feel like people get trapped in that. And then not only that, like I know people who have, rented jets, things like that, just to get more attention. And then guess what? Now they actually start acting like a person who has it when they really don't. And then what happens? Their ego's boosted. And then they become a totally different person, because what you surround yourself with is what you become, right? So I'm right there with you guys on that. Now, another thing that I heard on the David Meltzer podcast is that you guys actually used to work together before starting the business together. So I want to talk a little bit about your guys' journey and like how you guys came together and then, got to the point where you guys were at.
Well, first of all, me and Trev both worked in a call center, and we were just young kids. I think when I met him, I had worked at the call center for a little while. I was like 18 when I started there. And by the time Trev came in, he was barely 18, because I'm like almost a year older than him.
Yeah.
So we were just young bucks, man. And like, I just loved this guy, first of all, anyway, right? Like when we got a chance to hang out, because I was already a dad, dude. I was a dad at 18, dropped out of high school. I had to find ways to feed my kids. I jumped around from jobs to construction to hell, even pushing carts at the grocery store down the street, man. I was just like trying to feed a little family. And so when I found sales, first of all, I was making more money than combined with all my little side things going on. And so I kind of settled in there. And then when he came into that company, dude, this guy's just so fun to be around. He was instantly, when you meet someone, they're just like, dude, that's your boy, and that's how Trevor was for me. And so even though I was a dad and I couldn't go out and party with these guys and do the after hours stuff, like sometimes he would come over to my house and we'd have a little get togethers. And so I really valued my time hanging out with Trev. And then we kind of took different paths, man. I went off to work for an accounting firm. He went off to work with one of our friends that was starting another call center up in northern Utah. And we didn't see each other for a lot of years. And he kind of had his own trials that he went through, and I was going through my own trials. But when we came back together, I'd already started a company. And it was kind of a call center based education product that we had. And I heard Trevor was moving back down and he might want to come work with us. And I was like, oh, dude, I love that guy. I would love for him to come work for us. Like, that's my buddy. That's my friend. I love him. His energy's awesome. And so when he came in, man, he instantly kicked ass on sales, instantly moved up. I wanted to promote him to like a sales manager, because he really is just talented at leading people in a way that they need to be led. And so, man, when other partnerships kind of fell apart, opportunity came up, and I was like, I told our other partner, he's still our partner this day, I was like, man, I feel like Trev is just a superstar, and one day he's going to go build his own thing anyway. Like, we have these other partners that are exiting, we're in a jam. We need to kind of all come together. We need to bring some money back in to save this thing and rebuild it. And so why don't we bring Trev in as a partner? And so, Jeremy obviously liked that idea. And so we had some chats with Trevor. We kind of got a game plan together, and boom, here we go again, man. We're just building something fruitful. And he's been a huge part of that. And really it started though from us working together and just having that love for each other, man. We just hit it off as friends. And I really feel like I saw like something great in Trev, and I'm sure maybe he saw great things in me too, but like the way that he leads, because I'm a great leader in areas, but he leads in areas that I'm not great at. Right. And so the way he can like hold people accountable was so just impressive to me, man. I was like, man, I want to do life and business with that guy, so that's kind of a short version of how we came together. I don't know. Do you have
Awesome.
anything to add to it? Did I miss anything? Leave anything out?
That's it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You know, Kale went to go work for an accounting firm doing sales, and I went off and ventured the wrong way and became a drug addict for 4 years. And then when I got clean, that's when I ended up linking back up with Kale, working for him. And the story just really, what it comes down to is, even if you work for somebody else, you just still need to go above and beyond, you know, run the company or operate your department, you know, like the business is yours, because one day it might be, you know, or one day you might start your own business and you now have that experience with more of an operator's type mindset, because that's how you were operating when you worked for somebody else. It just so happens that, you know, when you do that, good things happen and opportunities get presented to you in one way or another. It's not if, it's just a matter of when. The opportunity might be operating a department in the company that you work for. It might be operating the entire business that you currently work for. They may start doing rev share with you at one point. But that's really what it came down to, is I was operating it like it was my baby, my business, even when it wasn't. And then the opportunity came about for me to invest into ownership, and that's what I did. And, you know, it was about 10 years ago.
Awesome. So when you guys actually reconnected and you guys started working together as a partnership, what were some of the trials and tribulations that you guys had to go through? What were the obstacles, you know, to get from where you were beforehand up to this point?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I think back on those days, we weren't making near the amount of money we were making.
We had
were
fun,
having
though.
fun.
Yeah, we had a lot more
We were
fun
having
back
fun.
then.
We had culture.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there might be like someone that like Coulter, he's actually one of our partners on the credit repair company, totally separate. I wanted to fire him. I didn't like him. I didn't see what Trev saw in him, but now he's kicking ass. He's like, dude, Trev saw something in him I didn't see in him. But at time, like, that might have been a struggle, right? Like, Trev's like, no, dude, I'm taking this guy on my wing. I think I see something in him. I'm like, I don't, dude. Like, he's kind of addicted to people, and he's, you know, this and that, and his sales aren't that great. And like, I just didn't see it, but he did. And sometimes, you know, even though I didn't agree, sometimes as partners, man, like, you still have to support each other. It's like, okay, you know what? He's pretty passionate about making this work. Dude, like, I'm not going to sit here and fight it. Like, let's see if we make it work, you know? And you know what? You're going to have that at every step in a lot of different decisions. But at the end of the day, like, even though we have different ideas, even though we see different things in different people, and we're not always on the same page. And I just did a little podcast on this, but we've always been kind of committed to the same, like, vision. Like, he might see it a little differently. I might see it a little differently, but at the end of the day, we're like, dude, this is the problem we want to solve in the marketplace. Dude, this is the potential that we have. Like, we could turn this into a $100 million company. You know, like, we create visions together because we spend time together. We had fun together, and we allowed our visions to also be evolved from the people that are key players in our company too. Like, every sales guy that comes in and goes above and beyond, like Trev did, that wants to be a part of something with us, like, they enhance our vision. And so even though there are differences and there are trials, because any partnership, just like a marriage, it's like a relationship, like, you're not always going to see eye to eye, but if you're on the same page about a vision and a mission together, even though you don't always agree, you can always come back to that. Because if Trev had a death in his family today, like, I'm going to step up for him. Vice versa. Even if we were seeing eye to eye at that moment or not, right? And it's like, we're committed to each other like a relationship, but we're also committed to a vision. So we had each other's back. And so at the end of the day, man, I could sit here. It would honestly be hard to sit here and be like, man, what were some really trying things that we weren't on the same page about? Because we had a lot of fun, and I know there were little things here and there, but we were always committed to the vision. And I think that's the most important part.
What would you say would be the biggest obstacle that, you know, you guys had to overcome in order to go to 10 million a year?
Look, here's the deal. When it comes to building a big business, you have to have cash on hand, because you're going to burn a lot of it figuring out what doesn't work. You know, so I would say some of the tougher parts of entrepreneurship, just in general, is when you make a sacrifice and you're starting a business, maybe you're not making as much as you used to make, or whatever it is, right? It gets to a point where the business then starts spitting out money. And this is the point that usually most entrepreneurs fail at. It starts making money, and it may have taken 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for the business to start generating profits. And what does the entrepreneur do? They take. They take from the business to the point where it stunts its growth. It forces the business to ultimately plateau. So there's the forced hard part where you're just kind of living off of little in the first 1, 2, 3 years in business or whatever it is. And then there's the part where it isn't necessarily forced, but it's the right decision to continue to hold back from taking from your business. And you use those profits that you're generating on year 2 or 3 or whatever it is, put it in the business bank account. Make sure that there's reserves inside the business. Every business has ups and downs. I don't care what industry it is. If you haven't hit it yet, you'll hit it at one point or another. Look at COVID. Not a lot of businesses were prepared for that, but that was also unforeseen. But guess what? Every other obstacle that you're going to face is going to be an unforeseen obstacle. If you could foresee it, you wouldn't have to deal with it because you would have already figured out a way to address it before it even happened. So there's the spot that you're forced to be disciplined and not take money while you're building. Then there's the spot where you actually have to really be disciplined when you can take money, but you choose to keep it in your business. Make sure that the business is strong and that you have reserves there so your employees don't have to worry about having a job. And then continue to reinvest back into the company or the business until it's spitting out even more cash flow to where now you could take money and save money for the business or reinvest, right? And so I think that there's a crucial 2 or 3 year period there where the business really starts making money. Let's say it's spitting off 100, 150 grand a year. A lot of entrepreneurs will just take that 100, 150 and live off of it, live the entrepreneur lifestyle, the 6-figure lifestyle. Now they're forced for their business to produce that so that they can even survive personally. Now, what happens when the business does take a dip? You keep taking to fuel a lifestyle, then you go out of business. So we've felt times where things dipped and there wasn't any money left. And there was times that stuff was floated on credit cards. Because of those difficult times, we've made sure that we've insulated ourselves very, very well by having a lot of money in the business bank accounts. The business is spitting off enough money to where we get paid very well, but we also can keep a large amount of money in the company. So if we want to buy a commercial building, we can do that. If we want to buy an airplane, we could do that. But you can't continue to hit these new levels unless you have cash on hand. But if you transfer that cash over to your personal account, you know how much harder it is for you to take the money out of your personal and then put it back into your business versus just keeping it in the business. And so I think that that's a thing that, you know, it sucks. It's something that, you know, we struggled with, but we honored the game plan. We followed the protocol, however you want to put it. Yeah. And because we did that, we've been able to invest into different things or different processes in our business. We can invest into something that costs 15 grand and write it off, even if it doesn't work, and it's not going to affect us one way, shape, or form. But again, we've insulated ourselves to be able to have that luxury to where we can invest whatever we want, wherever we want, whenever we want. And if it serves the business, we'll just keep doing it over and over and over. And if it doesn't, we write it off as a loss. Process of elimination. It is what it is.
It's so true. I bet there were so many times where we were going through our own different personal financial struggles, or where maybe my wife wanted something that his wife doesn't care about, or vice versa. And, you know, we look at that money in the bank account, but that's something, again, we were always aligned on. Like I remember having conversations in the very early days of like, well, dude, if we went through another 2007-8 crash right now, we care about people, right? Like we care about our key players and our employees, and we care about their families. We care about the people that are in their lives. And so we're like, man, how can we still pay these people? How many months could we still pay these people if our sales went from whatever, $100,000 a week to 20, right? Like how long could we pay them? And that's really something that we were always aligned on, is like, we got to have reserves. We got to have money in the bank. We got to have things for them, for our team, in order to sustain and continue to rebuild if we do ever hit those points. But I'm sure it was challenging. I know for a fact, like there's probably times I looked at the business bank account versus my personal bank account, thought, man, why can't we just take a $50,000 draw each right now? Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm sure we had those thoughts and those feelings. I remember some of them, but man, that's again something that we were super aligned on, is taking care of our people and making sure it was there if we needed to, you know, in a really hurtful time.
100%. I mean, I always tell, any CEO that I work with, it comes down to taking care of your people, right? So obviously the CEO ends up taking the hit if anything goes down, right? You want to make sure your people are secure because at the end of the day, they have families, etc. It's the right thing to do, right? I feel another thing that is right for CEOs to do is teach their employees about financial literacy. I feel like a lot of these organizations aren't, teaching their employees, especially salespeople, about money. And at the end of the day, I think that builds a culture when you actually take the time to show your employees and explain to them what money's all about. Then they can actually take that personal responsibility to build their funds, secure themselves. And then that means that they care about their money. So that means that they'll care about the client's money, and then they'll care about the company's money. And I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons for employee disengagement, right? Because they're not teaching them about money. They don't know how it works. They don't know, what exactly they're playing with there. So I kind of want to get your perspective on employee disengagement, financial literacy, and also just, the whole building a culture within a business as well.
Yeah, I mean, we harp pretty hard on our sales reps in terms of, be smart, save your money, invest your money.
Especially where we came from.
Yeah.
The company we worked
yeah.
for together.
Yeah, we came from not that type of a concept. The company we came from, they said, go buy the most expensive car you can afford that you can get approved for, because they knew that if people did that, they would get put behind the 8 ball, and they would have $1,000 a month car payment that they have to take care of. And they believed that it would force us as the sales reps working for them to produce, which ultimately leads to more money in the business bank account for them. We go about it a little bit different. We tell them, hey, be smart, save, invest. We have some sales reps that have some same investments that we have, right? In some of the same businesses that we've put our own money in. And, we've talked about creating kind of a leadership circle, or what did we call it?
Inner circle
The
of
inner
people
circle.
we'll actually invest with. Yeah.
So we just said, save your money, because eventually we're going to put together an inner circle, because we get presented so many opportunities. We can't invest into every single one of them. And we're going to start creating an inner circle where, 5 people could each put, $100,000 into an entity that they each own 20% of. And we can present them opportunities to invest into different deals, because look, we're not dumb. We realize that people aren't going to work for us until they're, 70 years old. We might get 5 years, we might get 1 year, we might get 10 or 15 years, right? We don't know, but we definitely want to make sure that people are leaving our company better off than when they started, whether it's mentally, emotionally, financially, hopefully all of it. But really, we do preach, be smart with your money, because money comes in quick. It could leave just as quick. So we've been sales guys that, well, I have that, I made 2,000 in a week after taxes, got 1,500, paid a car payment of 550. I'm like, hit up the boys and say, I got $950 to spend this weekend. Where are we going? Like,
Drinks on me.
as long as the car payment was paid, that's all that mattered to me. After that, everything was just fun coupons, and we'd go out and have a good time. So yeah, we do things quite opposite versus the environment that we grew up in.
And to kind of touch on your part about culture, man, I mean, that has changed the game for our culture. At the end of the day, like, we were just talking about this down in Cabo at a little mastermind, like, people don't leave where they're loved, right? And that kind of spoke to me, because it's like, it never does feel good when someone leaves, whether they've been with us for 2 years or they've been with us for 10. It's like, man, it kind of sucks. Yes, we want them to leave better off than they came in, and most of the time they do. But at the end of the day, man, if we have a culture of like, where we really truly care about our people, and we have a set of core values that we stick by, that's built around really lifting up everybody else in the culture as well, and we want them to be better off, I think that they stick around longer. And like Trevor said, we don't expect people to stick around forever, especially when they have their own visions, desires. But if they're bought in on our mission, they are key players within our company. They step up, they show that over the years. Like, we're going to invite them into our inner circle to be able to invest with us and do life with us for even longer period of time. And so I think it is very important for culture to kind of touch on that, because you mentioned culture with that. And we're big on culture, man. Like, we've learned that that's one of the hardest things to invest into as a business owner, because there's no visible ROI. right? But the things that we do, the break room that we stock with food, the building that we put together and built for our company, and the type of culture we try to create, and how we invest into them, the country club memberships we purchase for them, the watches that we purchase for them, like we bought in Rolexes and Breitlings, and we do that stuff. But an accountant, right? Like we own an accounting firm, a typical accountant would be like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you investing into masterminds? Why are you investing to these programs? Why are you buying your guys Rolexes? Why are you doing all these things? You can't see an ROI on it. So typical accounting firm is going to be like, that's a stupid purchase. But culture is like one of the greatest things you can invest into, because when everybody is bought in on the mission of lifting each other up and the mission of what the end game is, like, dude, you're going to have a lot more people stick around, and the people are going to buy into your mission with you. And that's a huge part of culture.
100%. I mean, it comes down to that retention factor. At the end of the day, it is an investment. You're investing into them, and then they see that you're actually taking the time to care for them. They feel like someone's out there having their back. And then, when someone feels secure like that, they're going to go all in for you and, do everything possible to make your baby and, grow and come into fruition, for your dream come into fruition. Right. Yeah. So, absolutely. I mean, let me ask you this. I feel like a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses right now, what they're having problems doing is finding, the right fit for their company, their culture. So do you guys have any tips on certain strategies that, business owners or companies can, utilize in order to vet the candidates and find those quality people?
Yeah. Well, I would say are you really writing your ad as you, or are you writing just the typical template ad that this highly skilled this, like when we hire somebody, we talk about how important, or even in the ad, if we put an ad out to hire somebody, how important it is for individuals to be comfortable in a loose environment. When I mean loose environment, I mean swear words. Right? Like I'm not going to tiptoe around any, but like, if I feel like swearing, I'll swear in that moment. Right. But at the end of the day, it's not like constant. Right. But, I like to curse a little bit, but I don't want to ever put somebody in an environment that they will feel uncomfortable in. Right. And so in the ads, make sure that you're writing an ad that literally fits exactly what they're coming into. Don't just use an Indeed template or a ZipRecruiter template and keep it basic if you're a more loose environment, but it looks like that your ad is a professional environment. You might get a bunch of 50 or 60-year-olds hitting you up, but your environment's young, energetic, whatever it is, that's a little bit more loose. So you've got the wrong bait on the hook that you're putting out into the world. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you're baiting your hook with the type of things that will ultimately attract what you're trying to catch, right? That would be...
I literally swore in one of our job posting ads. I was like, do you want to work for a badass accounting firm? Do you want to come be a part of something that's going places? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wrote it like that because I wanted people to read that and be like, dude, these guys seem cool. I want to come work for them. You want to attract the right people.
Or the uptight ones would say, I'm not working.
Yeah.
There, and then we don't even get the rhythm.
And we learned that the hard way. Dude, we live in Utah, and it's a very ingrained Mormon community in a lot of areas of Utah. And so we've had people come in and they were great at their job on paper. It's like, dude, we want to hire this guy. He's like badass accountant, already does this, and he's got these skills in tax prep, and it's really hard to say no to him. And you don't. And then 6 months in, they're like, there's a lot of cussing around here and I'm uncomfortable. And now you're calling your attorney in to have meetings on, what the liability is for the company. And it's just, dude, it's not going to be productive in the long term. But if I was going to give a tip on top of that, that's a great point that Trevor made, because that's literally how we've built our company, and we've made some mistakes along the way and we've learned from them. But if I was going to give a tip on top of that, I would say, grab your partner if you have one, or grab your key players, get together and really build what you guys are about. Like, put it on paper and design your core values around it. Not just something cool to stick on the wall, like something that you're actually going to live by. Like, hey guys, we're going to hire by this. We're going to fire by this. We're going to hold people accountable to this because we want to build something great. And your core values is like, we hear about it all the time. And sometimes people just do it because they get told to do it. It's like, if you actually intentionally build your core values, like we've done with our key players, and we live by it and we call each other out by it, it literally changes the game. It's huge for culture. It really is. And so I would say on top of what Trev said, make sure you're attracting the right people to you. Make sure you're taking the people that already are ingrained in your company, your key players, your partners, whatever it is, and build those core values out and really live by them. And it's probably something that should resemble some of your personal core values as well. But at the end of the day, if you actually have core values that you guys stick to, like I had one of our sales managers the other day, he's like, dude, we're allowing this person to stay here, but they're not living by our core values. I'm like, hey man, I trust you to make that decision. And so we've had to let people go because I got called out on it. I don't want to, because maybe his sales numbers are pretty good. But at the end of the day, if he's doing things that are actually coming back and costing the company money, because he's not maybe selling with integrity, which is one of our core values, or he's not lifting people up around him, which is one of our core values. If they're not going above and beyond for our customers, which is one of our core values, like he's got to go because he's going to turn into a cancer and bring the entire company down. And if they see that I allow that, well, then other people are going to start doing it because they know they can get away with it. So when you got a team of people that are actually living by it, when new people come in and they are the right people, they're going to know real quick, like, ooh, I can't be that guy that, leaves a mess in the bathroom. I can't be that guy that talks to a customer this way or loses my shit because, he got tested on his patience with a customer not understanding something or whatever. Right. And so I would say that on top of that, what Trev said is get some really true core values. A lot of companies say they have them. They don't actually have them. Really, really create them and live by them.
Even just the whole transparency aspect, what you're promoting to bring in these candidates. Now, what about in regards to the work ethic though? So for example, I'm from New Jersey, right? I have like the tri-state area work ethic, the New York, go, right? Then I've lived in California, I've lived in Vermont, I've lived down in Florida, and I feel like to find individuals who really understand the concept that, you're getting what you're putting in, right? And who really go after it. What would you say to someone who's struggling to find those kind of individuals?
I would say don't expect to. Don't expect to. We literally, so here, again, Kale said we just got back from mastermind. Flat out, this is one thing that they discussed as well at the mastermind. Like, if they were you, they'd be your competitor. So a lot of times we look at ourselves as the example of what we want out of somebody. But what if they do 80% of what you do in terms of energy, enthusiasm, or whatever it is, right? Maybe their 80% is their, what looks like to you 80% is their 100%. You don't know that. So the idea is to find somebody, one that is moldable, especially if it's a sales department, right? Salespeople are difficult to mold, especially if they're old school salespeople, because, they're stuck in their ways. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't project your expectations of self onto somebody else, because they might not have the same goals, visions, or dreams as you. I would find somebody that seems to do well in their environment, that seems as though that they want to grow and evolve and be a part of something. And then at that point, if you see something that's lacking, then you can call them out on it. If they're doing a great job, let them know that they're doing a great job. Because I don't think enough entrepreneurs build enough equity with their employees by saying good job when it's time to say good job. All they want to do is harp on them when it's time to harp. And so what's happening is you're actually, now the dickhead boss, or whatever, that only comes to them and complains about an issue when it arises. But if you gave them 5 good jobs and you had 1 issue, you still got equity there. So again, at the end of the day, to expect for somebody that's an entrepreneur to find somebody that's exactly like them, you go to your competitor and ask your competitor if they want a job. That's the only way you're going to find somebody exactly like you. But the idea is, again, find somebody that you feel like is going to give you an honest effort and give you everything that they have, whether that might be your 60% or 70%, your 80%, whatever it is, and put them in a position to win. Put them in a position where they have the ability to grow and evolve into something more than what they were when they found you.
A great example is we have a guy here, we call him Buddy, right? All the sales guys, even the sales managers, complain about his work ethic, but yet he's our top producer for the year. The guy's investing in different areas than they're investing in. He might not come in and prospect as hard as they do. He might not dig into the database and go 2 years back to call old prospects to find little deals here or there. Like he's kind of like invested into his skill set so much to where he knows, hey, I can come in for 8-9 hours a day and still outproduce everybody without making as many dials or digging as deep. Right. And so I like value that. Right. But then I look at my sales manager, get super bothered by it. I'm like, listen, dude, you've got to learn to manage it. You got to set your expectations aside. If you're giving everybody equal leads, but this guy's outshining everybody, but he's not going to call 30% of them, well, then you need to figure out how to manage that flow, right? But that guy's investing still. He's investing into his skill set when these guys are investing all their time into just straight up
dialing,
boom, 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 and so it's weird, man. Like, but what Trevor says is spot on. You kind of do have to set your expectations aside and look at, hey, where do your people like thrive? Like, and where do your leaders lead and how are they managing it? Right. And so, because you can get the most out of people, but still create an environment that they're happy with. Because I guarantee you, we would lose one of our top producers, Buddy, if we were just like, hey, constantly harping on him about, dude, you got to get your dials up. You got to dig deeper. You got to have this many dials a day. You got to dig back this far into the database. If we're just constantly writing him, telling him, no, you can't go on vacation this week or this month, or you can't do, this, or you got to work Saturday, like, but he's out producing everybody, right? Like that just doesn't make sense. And so we've just had to learn to manage the different personalities and give them what they want. At the same time, we got like Dave, who will sit there and outgrind everybody, and his skill set has come up too. So now he's one of our top producers. And so it's just a matter of managing it. And it's also about being a leader by example as well. They see how hard we work too, to go out and get the business for them to call, And so I think it's just a combination of those things. But what Trev said is spot on, man. Like you got to set some of your expectations aside and your perceptions of what hard work is, because they might be working hard on investing in their skill sets and you don't see that, but at the same time, they'll come in and outshine everybody with half the work ethic.
Well, that's like a coach trying to say, I want Shaquille O'Neal to be a 3-point, like everybody to be great at everything. Like Shaquille O'Neal's not shooting threes. Right. That's not, it's not in his skill set. Right. So, but does that mean he's terrible at basketball? No, it's the coach's job to put him in a position to win. Right. And so understand your players' skills and put them in a position to win for themselves so that they feel gratification at the job that they're doing and for you and your business. Right. So if everyone got 30 leads and Buddy's just not the best at dialing, maybe he needs only 15 leads and he'll still put up just as much as anybody else. And let's give more leads to the dialers if we need. Again, it's up to us to kind of control that ebb and flow of things. Right.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think that the part where it gets a little conflicting is where, let's say for example, some organizations, they do have that minimum requirement, right? And then you have some people who are utilizing their skill sets and they're going ahead and still being effective in what they're doing, and then you have someone who's not as talented with the skill, but then they're required to hit that certain number in their metrics, right? And then they feel like, hey, now you're playing favorites, etc., right? So how would you deal with something like that?
We've had salespeople that didn't work out. Yeah. Like it just is what it is. Guess what? They showed up every day. They had a good attitude, and they were actually an asset to the company. So what did we do? We moved them from sales over to fulfillment somewhere, right? We have several different businesses, so we have the ability to move pieces around, right? So one of our not best salespeople ended up going into fulfillment and doing some stuff for us and is kicking ass. He, now he's in charge of one of the departments, our fulfillment departments, kind of overseeing stuff. Right. But he was a terrible salesperson. So, but we liked him. He brought something to the environment. And when they show up and they have good energy and sales just isn't their thing, can you put them in a position to win elsewhere? Like we have something where once somebody gets to a point where they're just not producing, we usually say, hey man, you got, a few weeks to put up X amount of numbers so that you can keep your job. So at that point, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's on us firing them. It's up to them to now perform. They have a runway. And at the end of those few weeks, there's no question. Either they have the job still or they don't. And they know that too. And so guess what? It does one of two things to that individual. It either motivates the hell out of them and they step up and they end up rising to the occasion, which is what you ultimately want to see, or they've already in their mind made up that this isn't for them the moment that conversation was over, and they have the wandering eyes and they kind of milk that week or two and as they're looking for their exit to go do something else. And you usually can see the individuals that step up to the plate and actually really try to grind versus the one where there's like, I'm going to milk this for 1 or 2 more weeks. But guess what? They pack up their own shit at the end of the 2 weeks. You don't even really have to fire them because it was already a mutual agreement on that last meeting. And so it doesn't have to be this weird, awkward firing. You're giving them an opportunity to stay employed with you. It's up to them whether or not they stayed employed with you.
So I know it's obviously industry specific, business specific, but in your experience, do you think it's more beneficial to put people on W-2 where they have a salary or commission based only?
It's more beneficial. If I could put everybody on 1099, I would. But at the end of the day, there's laws against that, right? Because of taxes and Social Security and payroll matching. And dude, I mean, like workman's comp. We literally got audited when I first started the first company before Trevor was in the picture. Me and Jeremy had this company, and we built up a decent team, right, of sales and fulfillment, and we had them all 1099. We're flying under the radar, right? Well, what happens is we got an audit, and it was from workman's comp. And we're just like, oh crap, what did we do? Right? Again, another thing of like our ignorance coming back to bite us in the ass. They come knocking on the door and they're like, well, you can't do that. Do you require a schedule, hours that they have to be here? Do you provide a place for them to work? Do you provide the leads for them to call? Do you provide the customers for them to fulfill? Like, you can't classify that as an independent person. An independent person is like someone renting a booth at a hair salon. They get their own marketing, they make their own schedule, they come and go when they please, they have a key to the building, whatever, right? A real estate brokerage. But dude, yes, a 1099 would be way better because then now they have more tax incentives as an independent business operator. We're not matching payroll taxes. So on paper, everyone being 1099 would be freaking awesome. But there's laws, unfortunately, protect us against that. So we have to follow the laws, man, in order to play this game.
But,
yeah, we'd save about $300,000 a year at least if everybody was 1099 in terms of the amount of taxes that we have to.
And they'd save more money. They'd be able to write off a bunch of stuff, mileage, business meals, but they can't do that because they're W-2. This
business thing's a game, man. You know, you make a lot of mistakes, you learn the game, and some of them are legal games, some of them are, mental games. There's many games in entrepreneurship. So we wish we could play that side of the game, but unfortunately it's just not in the cards for us.
100%. No, I completely understand where you're coming from. So I want to take it back to the credit aspect, because I know you guys have the credit repair business. How important do you think credit is for entrepreneurs when establishing a business?
It just depends on the situation, but it could be the difference of somebody being in business versus not. It could be the difference of somebody staying in business versus going out of business. It just depends on the situation, right? But again, that's one of those things that's better to have and not need than need it and not have it, right? So, we used to do some business funding back in the day for startups, and some of them would say, oh, I've got this business opportunity. I can purchase this business for $50,000. But you check their credit score, it's like 550, and it's like, well, now the work begins, but yet then their biggest issue or complaint is, well, I don't know if it's going to be available in months, 2 months, 3 months, or for however long it's going to take to fix these issues. So a lot of people wait till they need money and then run to try to get it. And then they find out what the issues are rather than making sure that that's top of mind and that they have good credit so that if they ever need it, they can just make a move and go get it. But yeah, we've seen a lot of people not be able to pursue their dreams because of their credit scores. It's just a fact. Not a lot of people have, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand to start a business, or if your business is moving in the right direction, but you hit some skids, for 2 or 3 months. Again, I told you earlier in the conversation, at one point there was money that was floated on a credit card in order just to stay in business, $66,000 to be exact. And so without that, who knows what would have happened or where we would be or what the situation would have looked like. But it's super important to have access to, credit cards with $10, $20, $30,000 limits, or a line of credit outside of your credit cards. And again, just because you have access to it doesn't mean you have to use it. It just means it's there when you may need it. And I promise you, if the need arises, you want to be able to have that available.
I'll put it this way, man. I got this,
About your rental property?
yeah. So I had this, okay. So I was just a sales guy and I was broke. Okay. Like I told you earlier, 18-year-old kid hustling for money, feeding a baby and a little wife right out of high school. I had no money, but I had a little bit of money coming in and I had decent credit. I had one credit card, like $1,000 limit, right? Because I had decent credit for a kid right out of high school. Luckily, someone co-signed on a car where I was able to even get a credit card, right? But that changed the game for me because when I was starting to make money, I got presented an opportunity to buy a little real estate investment property. And this real estate investment property was just a tiny little 1-bedroom condo that they vacation rental down here in St. George. And I was like, hey, that could work, but I have no money for a down payment. I have no money for even earnest money. Well, he's like, hey, well, you don't own a home yet. So you could get the first time buyers program where you don't got to put a bunch of money down, but you got to have earnest money down. I'm talking $500, dude. I didn't even have it. So I went and I wrote one of those credit card checks because I had access to capital for the earnest money. I purchased the little condo. I used the rest of the money on the credit card to fix a few things, carpets, some broken tile, all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, I sold that property. It literally doubled in value in 2 years because that's when we hit the freaking surge before the 07 crash. It doubled in value. I was able to sell that condo. I think I sold for like 110, so not quite double. I bought it for like 60. I sold for like 110. And that money is how I started my business. That money is how I even had some capital when Jeremy came to me to be able to like start our very first project together as a side hustle. But I had to have some decent credit. So if you're aspiring to be an entrepreneur at all, yes, you're going to need some access to capital. I was doing some research for an article right not too long ago. The number one reason people fail in business is lack of capital. And so 100%, man, like there's so many ways to get money, but you got to have credit. There's business credit, there's personal credit. You got to have history. There's levels to the game of credit alone. But the sooner you get started, you can do a lot with a little, man. I mean, that very first investment property literally was like $1,000 out of pocket for me, and it was on a freaking credit card. And it changed the game for me to be able to start a business. So 100% credit is so important. And if you're aspiring at all to be an entrepreneur and you're not yet, you better get your credit on point, dude. Learn the game. It's not that hard. You learn to play the credit card game. What's debt to credit ratio and what's going to lower my scores, higher them, and how does this car loan affect it? And like literally, I went and got a car loan for my wife, even though I didn't need to. I could just bought her car cash. I went and got a car loan just to boost her credit score up, so I could put an investment property in her name. It's like, dude, it's a game, and credit's a huge part of it. So absolutely, you should take it very seriously.
So what have been like the key points that you realize that most people aren't realizing about credit?
That they're gonna need it at one point. Here's the problem. The average individual is very reactive, meaning they don't foresee anything happening in the future, whether good or bad, right? They're just dealing with whatever's on their plate in that moment. React. Problem. Why is it always because you're reactive? You don't ever plan anything out, right? You're not being strategic, and the world's full of problems, so it'll throw it at you if you don't have your own plan in place and have your own structure in place, right? And so because nobody thinks outside of Friday night, Saturday night, and again, that's the thing. Monday, they can't wait till the weekend. They're not thinking about next month, next year, next 2 years. So I would say that too many people wait till they absolutely need it. They find the dream house that they want to be able to put their family in. And then guess what? They need to fix their credit. But there's probably going to be multiple offers on that house. So somebody else that has good credit's going to get it. Right. And so I think the big issue with credit is individuals need to understand, they have to project forward. They have to see into the future, even though you don't know why you'll need it at one point. You will need it at one point, so you might as well have it available to you so that you can execute when needed. That's the biggest problem I see with credit is right when somebody wants to buy a car, now they want to fix it. Right when they want to buy the house, now they're ready to fix it. So there has to be, for individuals to take action, there has to be something on the other side of it. Guess what? Addressing your credit today without having an investment, a home, or a car to purchase, that's just putting yourself in a good situation, but you don't have this shiny thing to show your friends. You can go around and show them your credit score, I guess, but nobody really gives a shit. But if you have the ability to get that card that you want, now you're willing to address it because now you can go show the homies the new car. People need to understand you need to be planning for the unplanned, because the unplanned will happen. It's not if, it's just a matter of when, whether that's next month or in 10 years. But make sure that you're aligning your life with what you ultimately want out of it. Right? And credit's just a part of it. You can only go so far living in the cash Dave Ramsey lifestyle, right? And so make sure that you're putting yourself in a situation to be successful by addressing any hurdles that might get in your way without you even knowing that they may get in the way. And that's just by, again, looking at your life as a whole and say, well, what's really shitty right now? What's crappy right now? Well, my credit is. Let's chip away at that. Let's make that a goal this year, to make sure that my credit's good. What else I'm out of shape. Create a goal to get in shape. Follow that plan. Whatever it is, there's so many things that are lacking in the world today. And the biggest one is just people's lack of action when it comes to putting themselves in situations where they have more opportunities later when the opportunity is not fully visible yet.
Same thing I talked about a little bit earlier. Your impulses are going to it's going to force ignorance, right? Like you want something so bad right now. So what are you being ignorant about that's not aligning with your long-term vision? Or are you even a long-term vision thinker, right? And it's like, think about it like this, man. Do you think the guys that are going out and getting those rescue car loans right now, they go out and buy a $50,000 truck on an 18% interest rate? Do you think they've ever sat down and calculated, like, okay, I'm paying interest on this 18% loan right now. If I had a 2.5% loan right now, what would the payment difference be right now? How much money am I really screwing up? No, they don't even think about it. Most of them don't. If you went and talked to like 100 people that have 18% credit card loans right now, very rare, very, very minuscule amount of them are actually going to say, yeah, I sat down and did the math on that. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm really hurting myself. I need to dig out of this hole, right? Most of them are just like, living in the moment all the time, right? And then they're just buying what they want. And they're like, whatever, 18%, cool. I just want that truck with the rims on it. And at the end of the day, they don't actually calculate, like, how is this hurting me now? And how's it going to hurt me in the future? So their impulsiveness is causing this ignorance, and they're choosing to stay ignorant. And at the end of the day, it's going to come back and haunt them. And I think that's what people don't think about. Like, your decisions right now, how is it going to affect you in 3, 4, 5 years from now? How is it going to affect your kids? How's it going to affect your business partners? Your wife? Like, people don't think about it. They just stay ignorant, man, because they're too damn impulsive. And unfortunately, the credit system is kind of designed to target those people. But the reason the bank's got the biggest buildings in town is because they only give the money to the people they know don't need it, that have the best scores, that have the best history, that have the best backing. And then they just sell the high risk money off to these idiots. I hate to sit here and call them idiots, but they are, because they're choosing to stay ignorant and impulsive. And it's like, they're going to target those people and they're going to give money to those people. I'm going to charge them a lot less money, but I'm going to make money on them because that's guaranteed money. And I'm going to target the shit out of these people. I'm going to make my money back in whatever, 1 year on this loan over here. And then I'm going to go repo their car. You know, I mean, it's the impulsiveness, man, and the ignorance, dude. And that's what people need to hear, and they need to own it. And they need to be honest with themselves. They need to actually sit down and calculate it. Like, holy crap, dude, I'm really screwing myself when I look at this 24% interest rate versus this 2.5 over here. And they need to really think about how it affects the people in their life, not just them. Nobody does. Not that pool of people. I love it when people break out of it, because we were those people.
Yeah.
We were those dumbasses, you know, but at some point you've got to be like, man, I want better for me, and I want better for my family. And I actually want a home for them to live in that's going to appreciate and value. And I actually want to bring something to the table for my business partners. And I actually want my wife to live her dream life and my dream life. And it really comes down to actually sitting down and becoming unignorant and doing those calculations.
100%. I mean, I just say, it always just comes down to awareness of financial literacy, right? I mean, most people don't even know the biggest expense that they have, which is ultimately taxes, right? They don't even take that into consideration. So, once again, I just want to say I do appreciate you guys jumping on. We had a great conversation, I feel like. Before we do end the podcast here, do you guys have any last minute tips for, entrepreneurs or individuals just looking to better their situations and really, I'm going to sound corny here, but live their true life?
Hire a mentor. Hire somebody that's been there, done that. Hire a different perspective. right? We've been doing that for years. And I believe that you coach, you mentor people. That's kind of what you do, right? Because you've been around the block. You have different experiences outside of their experiences. You've worked at larger companies. You've seen how they operate. You've taken the good and you've implemented it, but you also took notes of the bad so that you know what not to do, right? And so here you are now running your own business, being successful based upon, again, actually looking at data and pocketing that information so that it serves you, right? And so I would say, one, so make sure you're surrounding yourself with individuals that want to level up in life. And if you can't find that in your local area, make sure that you reach out to individuals that coach or mentor and help somebody that's kind of already mapped out their life help you do that to yours, because some people just don't know where to start, what to look for. And there's other individuals that know exactly what to look for, where to start. And so I would say, again, if you can't find it in your, hire a coach, hire somebody that can help you hold yourself accountable and give you different perspectives on your business.
Absolutely. I don't know. One thing that comes to mind, man, I'm just thinking about is just for entrepreneurship in general, man, is are you a giver? Are you a servant? And, are you also open to receiving too? I mean, so many people, I heard a saying actually that not too long ago that was takers don't have limits, but givers do, right? If you're just a taker in the world all the time, man, you're always just going to stay where you're at. If you're not seeking to serve, you're not seeking to give, and you're also not open to receive too. Like sometimes people are just such servants and such givers, but they're so closed off to receiving. It's hard for them to say, I actually need help here, or thank you so much, I do need that in my life right now, or yes, and I've struggled with that. But I honestly think that one of the biggest reasons that we're where we're at right now, we're on track to crush our goals this year. I mean, we say, hey, we're doing $10 million a year in business. We're going to crush that, man. At the end of the year, it's probably gonna be more like 13 or 14, right? And then next year, we're probably going to strive for 20. And I literally think, and that's just tiny numbers to some people, and we're figuring that out as we grow more. But I literally think we truly seek to give, man. We truly seek to serve. Like we talked about today with culture, like we really want our people to level up, man. We want to give them everything they need to level up. We want to give our customers every bit of us to give them the best possible service or product that we possibly can. And so I really think that entrepreneurs that are going into business need to evaluate, am I just out here to take and get mine, or am I here to seek to serve, to give? And if you are a giver, you're a servant, man. Like you're gonna win. It might not feel like it sometimes, especially in the beginning, but I'm telling you right now, givers and sacrificers, they have the long-term success.
No, I completely agree with that. And I always tell everybody too, stop chasing the money and start chasing being a person of value, and the money will come, right? It's all about that serving. But Kale, Trevor, I do appreciate you guys taking the time. If you guys want to find Kale and Trevor, make sure you follow them on The Real Business Owners on Instagram. Reach out to them, connect with them. If you guys need credit repair, these are you guys. Guys, thank you for joining me.
I appreciate you, brother. It's a great time.